Hello, and welcome to Amsterdam, live through KLM with Locals. I'm Simon from With Locals, a freelance tour guide. Before we get everyone on board, as some people are going to take some time to log in all over the world, let's take some time to explain that we're going to do a small tour and maybe put in the comments where you're calling from or where you're coming in from today, whether it's in Europe or whether Asia or wherever. And as you know, the topic we're talking about today is about diversity and inclusion, and in general, the LGBTQIA plus world. Amsterdam has a long history with diversity and acceptance, and I call it my home as such. We'll start the tour shortly, as I say, just to allow everyone to get online, because we don't want anyone to miss the tour. And hopefully I can remember everything for you today. And this is the Netherlands after all. Let us hope it doesn't rain, although I've done my check and we should be okay for the next 20-25 minutes. Along the way, I'll be asking some questions as well. Maybe you want to put in the comments some answers, or if you have any questions for me throughout the entire video, please post them and I'll try to answer them as well as I can. So, I'm standing in, the tour is going to be beginning at the Westerkerk, the Westerplein. Now, that building is famous for not only for the last Queen Beatrix, where she got married, but also the last resting place for one of Amsterdam's most famous residents. And see if you can try and remember that. Try and think of who that would be, a famous artist from 500 years ago, world renowned, and one of the most top artists in the world. Welcome to Amsterdam again, live through KLM and with Locals. I'm Simon Andrew, a tour guide through with Locals. This year, COVID-19 has put a stop to many of the activities all over the world, and no less the LGBTQIA plus Pride activities earlier this year. Through KLM and with Locals, we're bringing you this tour to associate Amsterdam and Pride as synonyms for diversity and equality and acceptance. And I'm joined from KLM by Donny. Please. Hi, Donny.
Hello and good afternoon, live from KLM's headquarters in Amsterdam. We already can see in the comments that a lot of people are joining in from different countries. For example, Ghana, Dubai, Germany, and Taiwan. So thank you for letting us know. My name is Donovan, and I'll be your co-host today from Amsterdam. So all the questions you have for Simon, come in here in the office, and I will give them to Simon when we have the appropriate time for that. I'm very excited about this tour. I was going to celebrate my first Pride this year, but unfortunately it got cancelled, so I still haven't experienced it. So I'm very curious about what Simon has to tell. So, Simon, I wish you a very good tour, and we'll be in contact.
Thanks, Donny. Well, today's tour is going to focus, as I say, on the relationship that Amsterdam, I feel, and many people know, is Amsterdam and its true place in the history of Pride. We're going to walk through many different things, but try to squeeze as many things as we can into the 20 minutes we have. We have started here today on the Westerkerk, where we'll go down the Rozengracht and the Raadhuisstraat in front of the Royal Palace, through past the red light district, and we were ending at a famous cafe, the first gay and lesbian cafe in the world, which is still owning and operated in Amsterdam. And if you could maybe give me a guess as to the date that would have been open, we'll try and see who guessed correctly later on. So we'll start here on the Westerkerk, where in 1987, on the 5th of September, tomorrow being its 33rd birthday, the monument was unveiled, the Homo Monument, which was in commemoration for the gays and lesbians persecuted and killed throughout the Second World War. Though it stands testament as a memory and for all people who face discrimination in everyday life. It consists of 3 pink marble triangles, one of which is raised above the ground, one of which is flat to the ground, and one of which sinks down to the water. Now, today I don't have my other front camera because of a technical issue, but I'm going to keep turning it around. And this is the one that goes into the water. And you can see that there's flowers there, and someone has laid a memory of someone who's died. And it doesn't have to be to say about someone who's gay or lesbian, but someone who's discrimination, who's different, who's you, because that's what it's all about, is being us. So let's continue to move on. And we're going to go, as I said, down the Rozengracht. And we're going to cross the famous canals of Amsterdam. Now, there's a few canals of Amsterdam. And every year, when we have the Pride festivities, they start, actually, before I stop, before I go, I want one more thing to show you. Is you can see the Westerkerk there. It's a beautiful building from the 17th century. And the Westerkerk also is a plane, if I may add, for the Pride festivities. They have the opening party here, where they hold the Drag Queen Olympics, which is quite an interesting event to see. No tickets, it's open for everyone, but you have to be in there first to get a good seat, where you can view the handbag toss and the 100-meter high heel run, plus many, many other activities and a lot of drinks. Drag queens come from all over the world to participate. It's rather amazing. Now, as I said, we're going along the Rozengracht, along the famous canals. And the closing Saturday of Pride Week, there's the famous water parade, or Pride Parade on the water. Can you tell me, I wonder if anyone knows which principal canal that would actually be? So, I don't know if you know Amsterdam, but of course it's on water, it's surrounded by water, with 1,200 bridges and 90 islands in between. So, as I said, it's not going to rain today, thank goodness. Now, since COVID, also, Amsterdam has experienced a lot less tourism, unfortunately, but it gives locals like myself a chance to explore the city a lot more and another time, another opportunity, right? So now we can walk without being crowded for a change, but it's a pity that people can't come to Amsterdam and see what it really is like. So we're having to approach the palace shortly. Now, KLM approached me as with locals about this tour. And Amsterdam, for me personally, has a very long history of love. I moved here 10 years ago with my husband, and since have purchased a house, and I have 2 dogs, which I call my children. But Amsterdam every day proves itself to me why it's a city of inclusion, diversity. And not the same because if you need to be gay or straight, but it's people, there's respect here, and I can see that it goes back many, many years as to where this respect comes from for other people. And it's a way of life that Amsterdam, and the Netherlands as well, but today we're talking about Amsterdam, has maintained this harmonious existence.
Sorry to interrupt, Simon, but
Certainly.
I have a question. Is Amsterdam a safe city, discrimination-wise?
It is very safe, but no city is really safe from ignorance, unfortunately. They do, of course, people come from all over the world, and especially Europe. And unfortunately, things like alcohol creates sort of negative emotions in people.
Mm-hmm.
And it can never be said, but you can walk hand in hand in Amsterdam and feel safe. And
Wow,
this is what my husband and I do.
Wonderful. Thank you.
My pleasure. Now I'm going to just turn the camera around ever so briefly, and you'll see upon the arrival of the Royal Palace. So, the Royal Palace, albeit almost 400 years old, can also be looked at as being inclusive. It was never meant to be a royal palace. It was built as a city council for the people, for the Republic. So when we see the main, on the front side, as opposed to the rear we've just seen, there is no regal entrance that you'll see in any other palace around the world. Because it was never meant to be a regal royal, it was to everyone. It's all inclusive. It was for you, me, the pauper, the milkmaid, Everyone would go in there, and the halls are really stunning. Also, on the Rosengracht, this is where we are now, was also the first location of the COC, established in 1946, just after the Second World War. The COC is a Culture and Ontspanning Center, which translates as a Culture and Relaxation Center. And it's an advocacy group since 1946 for lesbians and gays around the world, and they still continue to promote this and work, albeit they've moved offices now out here, but they're still here in Amsterdam. Now we're getting into a busier part of Amsterdam here, where there are many more tourists, but again, as I said earlier, it's a lot less. So, diversity and inclusion in the Royal Palace is a prime example you'll see in a second. This is the entrance where the King and Queen would enter, and you can see at the moment they're quite happy for the locals to be sitting there enjoying a drink and a chat with some friends. Next to the Royal Palace, we have the Nieuwkerk. And the Nieuwkerk, I just mentioned this because it's an impressive building. It's now only used as more of a museum. And the last time it was used was for the coronation of the king in 2013. Another amazing party which happened in 2013 with that, which is King's Day, which is a different day, but it's another day which, again, is all about inclusion, diversity. And to me, it has, next to Pride, has to be the two most incredible festivals be celebrated in this city.
Can I ask you something about that as well, Simon?
Certainly, Donny, please.
I do know about the boats on the canals, but what other festivities are there during a Pride Week in Amsterdam, or month actually?
Well, the Pride parade happens on the last Sunday. Sorry, Saturday, my apologies. And Sunday is the actual closing ceremony on the Dam Square. But it begins with the Drag Queen Olympics on the Friday. And interspersed throughout, of course, it changes every year, the program. They have every day, they have different activities, whether it's a gay men's choir singing, or remember there's a dancing troupe, or also Shakespeare clubs, cinema showing unique films, street art, public art, and also the whole city just comes alive. Pride flags are out everywhere, and it's the most welcoming week. So
That does sound very diverse indeed. Thank you.
my pleasure. So you can see behind me is the Royal Palace. It's a stunning building. Was the tallest in the world when it was built. Of course, in the new world, not the ancient world, the pyramids are still bigger. But so this is where the king and queen stood with their children in 2013. And what was monumental about this was it was the first king in living history. Every person before that had only ever known queens, 3 queens to be precise, ruling over the Netherlands. They once said that the Netherlands is ruled by queens and supported by dikes. So, which of course, the dikes is the land separation for the water holding back in this country. So this square is famous also for people to represent their own causes of what is intolerance for other countries in the world, and they know that here is a very safe location. Although I can't show you it here because it's not in the center, but a diversity inclusion subject that I recently discovered was Anne Frank's former house in Amsterdam. It's now being used as an offering for writers all over the world who are persecuted for doing what they do so well in their own country. And that is offered to them so they don't have to feel that. And only in Amsterdam does that occur. So it's a beautiful sunny day actually we come here. Now this is the main square, the Dam Square. And I'm going to do just a quick parallel. You can so now, does anyone have come up with the name of the canal in which the canal parade on Saturday is held, Donny, by chance? Otherwise, I can say.
We don't have any answers in yet, but please, people, you can comment down below and let us know what you think.
Okay. Now we're heading towards behind the stock exchange area, which is not what we're focusing on today, of course. And we're going past the red light district, which we can't also go in and definitely can't film. But back when the Netherlands had their first king, Louis Napoleon, in 1811, well, around that same time in 1811 is when Amsterdam decriminalized homosexuality, which is a phenomenal figure, date with such a, sorry, I gotta watch that, there's scooters and bikes in this city. So in 1811 was decriminalized. I mean, nowhere else in the world was it even looked upon as an option back in 1811. And then in 2001, not a space odyssey, but gay marriage was also legalized here in the Netherlands, followed by Belgium and Spain. I myself am married since 2004, and coming from a country which now does accept it, it was amazing to be in a country like this where I wasn't looked at as being different, that all the rules for everyone was also for me, and I could do and be who I am. So we're just going to go down these canals. So tell us who out there has been to Amsterdam, but during the Pride, and if you have any great memories of it, please let us know in the comments. And if you're,
And oh,
please, Tony.
speaking
Please.
about the comments, sorry to break in again. We do have an answer about the canals, which is the canal which is used for the canal parade, and it is the Prinsengracht. Is that correct?
5 points.
Yes, 12 points.
Yes. 12 points. Exactly. So, and it's and a quick story. One Pride I missed because I had to work, but then I next day I went with the volunteer with an organization called Plastic Whale, and so what we did is we hopped in a boat, and we collected all the plastic left over from Pride the following day. And let me tell you, there was a lot of rubbish in the water and plastic, but that was just as an enjoyable day the day after than it was on the actual day. And I recommend anyone to do such a thing. And it's just feel good. Plus, you get a new perspective of how much rubbish is consumed in some of these festivals, albeit enjoyable festivals. But it was phenomenal to see. Now, just got across. As you may know, there's a lot of coffee shops in the red light district in Amsterdam, and they tend to keep them all in the same area. We're not focusing on that today, but we're going to go, as I said, through to our end point, which is called Café Het Mansje. Now, I asked earlier on if anyone knows which day that was opened, and we've taken in mind that it's the world's first and oldest and longest running, still existing, gay and lesbian bar called Café Het Mansje. And other comments, any comments there for Donny? Am I going too fast maybe, or if anyone's not keeping up, please let me know.
We will do, yes. Some few comments are coming in, and I will let you know shortly.
Thank you. But neighborhood dogs. So it's lovely. I mean, you see here in Amsterdam, most of these canal houses, they have these little verandas for their stairs, which is quite sweet. And it's basically most people's backyards here in the Netherlands. A lot of people don't have them. They're looking onto the water, which is their garden. But they have these little verandas or little stoops in front of their houses. Quite beautiful.
Simon, we have a comment coming in.
Yes.
Yeah, well, you are married, and according to your husband, Ryan, on Instagram, you were married in 2005, so not 2000.
Oh! Well, he should be grateful that I moved it a year ahead. I'm glad my husband's keeping an eye on what I'm doing online. Okay. Thank you, Ray. Now, earlier I talked about the newer Kirk, and then I'll just show you to the old Kirk church. My apologies, I keep saying Kirk church. And don't be mistaken with the new and the old. The new one is already still 400 years old, and this one is 500 years old. It's testament. It's still here, surrounded by the original higgity buildings. What is Amsterdam? So just going to turn it around so you can have a better look.
When
Yeah.
when I see people walking around in Amsterdam, I see not everyone is wearing a face mask. Is it not
Yes,
mandatory to wear one?
it was mandatory up until the 31st of August. And
Okay.
as of the 1st of September, the mayor declared that it's no longer needed. They had done trials and tests, and that they saw no change in the numbers, so it was decided to drop them in these busy. And it was only in these very busy areas originally, like markets, these tourist streets, things like that.
All right. Well, I hope that's a step in a good direction into the future of
Exactly.
no corona.
No, exactly. Now where we're going up to first. We're going to ring around, and this is the oldest part of Amsterdam we're heading to now. And and it's basically, again, it's about inclusion. And so back years ago, when the Catholic religion was outlawed and Protestantism was key, there's a museum here where they basically have a secret church built into the rafters. And the Amsterdam government did not mind as long as they didn't see it. And they carried on for years having their secret masses behind these closed doors, which is quite phenomenal. Now we're going up to the Zeedijk. We're coming to the end of our tour very shortly. Now the Zeedijk is basically a sea dike originally. Now it's a street. There was many gay bars on that street originally, though they have cut down a lot. No reason other than they've moved to other locations. But the Cafe Hitmanche, where I was mentioning, is on this street. Now, has anyone come in with a date in which that was opened yet, Donny, by chance?
Yes, we have no comment on that,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Well, I could say that it was opened in 1927 by Bet van Beeren. And 1927, I mean, that's a phenomenal figure. Of course, during the Second World War, it closed. Then it reopened again. And it has been open the entire time up until COVID. And of course, at the moment, it's too early to be open, although other bars in the city are open. Very busy on the street today. So, Cafe Edmonton, 1927. I mean, in 7 years' time, it's 100 years old. I mean, as a gay bar in the world, which is quite phenomenal. Now, I'm going to turn my camera to show you. And the flag, unfortunately, is a bit gathered up. So as I said, it's too early for it to be open, unfortunately, but it still exists. It's a beautiful little bar, very cute, very kitsch, but everything in there is an original. Now, before we sign off, I thank you again for joining us, and I'm going to hop into one little bar of my favorite. It's called the Queen's Head, just up the road from this bar, and it's a gay bar that's been operating for many, many years. But what's the most enjoyable for me is every Tuesday they have their drag queen bingo, which has been replicated all over the world now. But it's amazing. It's free for anyone to join. You just pay for your cards, but it's a laugh and a half. It is so much fun. Every week it's a different drag queen. Come dressed as you like. Don't try too hard, or otherwise you outshone the other drag queen. So, but it's a lot of fun. Donnie, you should definitely come here one day, and we can go for a fun bingo night.
Well, I would love to. I would love to experience a drag queen bingo one day, and
This is the
I'm looking
Queen's
forward
Head,
to it.
and it isn't open just yet. They will be open shortly, and you'll see along they have their collection of Ken dolls from all over the world. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today in this live tour of Amsterdam. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I try to put in as many things as possible into this very limited time. Thank you, Johnny, for joining me as well. Is there any last comments before we leave?
Well, we have a last question for you, if that's possible.
Thank you.
What is the good or the best time to visit Amsterdam? Now that we've heard that masks are not mandatory anymore, like, do you have any advice for the coming months when it's the best time to visit?
Well, if now is the best time. If you're from a country that where you have quarantine bridges, now is your best time because it is the quietest it's ever going to be, where there's still sunlight. Otherwise, during normal times, I would say around April, May, as well as around about September. You may get some rain, but you see few less people. But during the summer, it can be a madhouse here. But otherwise, always Amsterdam is welcoming, and always Amsterdam is a lovely place to visit.
Well, that are very nice final words. Thank you for your amazing tour. I've enjoyed it very much. Um, Also, a big thank you to Wit Locals for letting you have us, and a big thank you for KLM for choosing this topic, which makes me very proud to work for a company like this. And the viewers from all over the world. I even read some viewers are coming from Russia, Tanzania, or Iran, and I hope we sparked a bit of enthusiasm about diversity and pride. So thank you all, and hopefully until perhaps next time.
Thank you,
And
ladies and
Simon, I'll
gentlemen.
see you on Drag Queen Bingo.
Great, Donny. Looking forward to it. Bye bye. Bye, people.
Bye bye.